Good Tavach, everybody. Chaim v'livracha. Was the Chassidische Verbringen genufton, kamalach nichol nishtufton. Should be zeiche to see the Geula Amitis v'Shlema right in the middle of this Verbringen in any second right now. Chaim v'livracha. I'm not from the big speakers, and I was wondering myself how I got myself into this. Not sure that I fit into this group of very inspiring individuals. But I just want to share something. The Rebbe says, I was looking over the Sikha over and over throughout Chabad last night and today, the Sikha of Chav Zayin Nisan, Chav Ches Nisan of Thursday night, which I was privileged to be there myself. It was just a very short time before I myself went on Shlichus. When the Rebbe says about Ichlozus Ibretzu Eich, I remember standing there when the Rebbe was saying these words, and of course the question that is asked, the Rebbe says that Alt was Abgiton v'chulu 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 didn't work, so the Rebbe is turning it over to us. What does it mean that the Rebbe is turning it over to us? If the Rebbe Kvayochel did not do it, so we are going to contemplate that we are going to do it. So one thing that I'd like to share that to me was a tremendous inspiration of myself personally in my shlichus and the way it relates to Moshiach and the way it relates to shlichus in general, but the oid v'hoiker, about like the Rebbe said, the shlichus ha'ikri, le'ochin esatzmei, there's kol olam kula, le'kabbalas plei Moshiach tzidkeinu. The Gemara says about Harbe Lamati mi Rabbi, I learned a lot from my teachers. I've learned more from my friends. But umitalmidai yoser mikulam. And I've had the privilege to share this story before. And to me, it's a very, very impactful story that I'd like to share with everybody tonight, that I think really relates to what this Farbrengen is all about. Many, many years ago, this goes back, I've been on shlichus now for 30 years. I was zeicha to receive a bracha from the Rebbe by dollars on Chav Vav Adar Rishon Tovshin Nun Beis, the day before Chav Zayin Adar, Sunday night, Chav Vav Adar Rishon. We were looking into exploring the possibility of going on shlichus to Utah. We had written into the Rebbe, we didn't get an answer. And I decided to go by dollars the last moment, Chav Vav, Sunday night. And the Rebbe was told that this was Zippel, who was asking the Rebbe for Askama Bracha to travel to Utah to see if a new Chabadas could be open. And we're zeicha to receive a Hatzlacha Rabbi Muflaga, Sunday night, Chav Vav, Adar Rishon, Tovshin Nun Beis, March the 1st of 1992. Many, many years ago, I met a young man who came to my group at the University of Utah. A Jewish student, a Jewish female student, brought this young man, and he came to my group and introduced himself. I asked if he was Jewish, and he says, no, he was not Jewish, but his mother was. Just gives you an idea a little bit of his background, where he came from. He started coming around regularly. Baruch Hashem, today is a Chassidish younger man, he's a Lubavitch younger man. But I want to share a story with you that I think really drills the point home that he shared with me and the impact that it made on me, that it really, really left a very strong impact on me. This young man was a young kid in his early 20s from South America. He was here at the University of Utah studying business. And Utah happens to be the Western hub for Delta Airlines. While Atlanta is the Eastern hub for Delta, Salt Lake City is the Western hub for Delta Airlines. This goes back probably in the late 90s, early 2000. And back those days before 9/11 and so on and so forth, it was very common for young people to go work at the airline because the job came with a perk that's called travel privileges. Airline representatives get to fly free as long as there is seats available without a reservation. Nowadays, flights are much more full. It's a whole different story. But for a young college student who's not from, He came in very handy. He has flight privileges, and when he's in the mood, he travels. He travels ahin, aher, across country, across the world. Why not? So we started coming around to Chabad house regularly. And then once in a while, he would come to the Chabad house and it'd be like, Rabbi, I've worked too hard. He was working for Delta as a luggage handler. He was one of these guys that throws the bag up on the airplane, not getting tremendous amount of money, but the biggest perk was getting the flight privileges. And he would come to Chabad house and be like, Rabbi, I need a break. I've worked too hard lately. I think I'm going to New York for a few days. I think I'm going to Hawaii for a few days. I think I'm going here, I'm going there. And he went around. This is, again, we're talking late 90s, maybe early 2000. And it was a summer day. And he came to Chabad and he says, Rabbi, I need a break. I'm going to Switzerland for the weekend. He's taking a trip to Europe. Why not? It doesn't cost him anything. He checks the loads of the plane from his computer. He knows which flights are flying half empty. And he gets a flight first class, like a pirate, lay down flat, have good food. Why not? And he went to Switzerland for the weekend for 2-3 days, left from here on Thursday, was coming back on Monday. Came back, and he came to see me at Chabad house, rather upset. And this is what he shared with me, and I want to share it with you and really share with you what an impact it made on me, that story. He was coming back from Europe. He was flying from Zurich to JFK, which is about an 8-hour flight, and then JFK to Salt Lake, which is another roughly 5-hour flight. Pretty long flights. He showed up on a hot, muggy summer day at the Zurich airport, and he wanted to be comfortable. How does a young college student fly comfortable in the summer? He came wearing shorts, wearing a tank top, a sleeveless shirt, no socks on his feet, and flip-flops. He shows up to the gate in Zurich and he flashes his Delta employee card, asking for a boarding pass. And the gate agent hands him over a boarding pass, and she puts him, where does she seat him? She gives him a seat, the very, very last row of the airplane, right at the end of the airplane, right where the bathrooms are and the kitchen is, where all the grumpy people get together when they are tired from their flight. So he looks at the boarding pass and he tells the gate agent, he says, wait a second, why did you put me in the back of the flight? I know the load of this plane, and I know that there are plenty open seats in first class. Why don't you give me a first class seat? I'm entitled to it as a Delta employee. So the gate agent takes one look at him in his face, and she says to him, it's because of how you're dressed. Again, how was he dressed? He was dressed in shorts, tank top, no socks, and flip-flops. He wanted to be comfortable in the summer. And he engages back to the gate agent, to the Delta agent, and he says to her, because of how I am dressed, he says, look around the gate area and look around the passengers around the gate area. Look at how they're dressed. They're wearing even less than I do. So what's up with me, or why me? And here's the word that she tells him that I'll never forget, that reverberate in my mind every day. The gate agent says to him, these are paying passengers. Paying passengers we have no control over how they show up for a flight. She said to him, you are a company representative. You represent Delta Airlines. And Delta representatives, company representatives are held to a higher standard. So he says back to her, he says, are you saying that if I take a taxi and I go quickly into town and I buy myself a pair of proper slacks, dress pants, and a button-down shirt, and a pair of socks, and a pair of shoes, I get to fly first class all the way from Zurich to JFK and from JFK to Salt Lake? She says, absolutely, but not the way you're dressed. The way you're dressed is not fit for a company representative. And he told me that when he came, He said he looked quickly at his watch, and it was not bichdei sheyaser to be able to take a taxi, go into town when the plane will start boarding any minute. And he said he set himself on the airplane in the last row of the plane, flying from Zurich to JFK, 8 hours, verkvetched, sitting there, all uncomfortable, under the banner Kvayochel of flying comfortable. And the same from JFK to Salt Lake. Why? Because company representatives are held to higher standards. Friends, brothers, sisters, shluchim, anash, anybody that calls him or herself a Lubavitcher, a chassid, a mekusher of the Rebbe. I think this day of Chav Ches Nisan, Chav Zayin Chav Ches Nisan, as the Rebbe writes in the Sicha about a specialty of Chav Zayin Nisan, which is Shemen Zay Zoch, Chav Zayin, and Chav Ches is Koyach. And then the Rebbe mentions that it goes into Chav Tes, which is Erev Rosh Chodesh, and then Rosh Chodesh Iyar. This day, 31 years ago, of Chav Ches Nisan, has to achieve a change, as the Rebbe says numerous times about Moshiach, that the first thing we have to change as far as Moshiach comes is our mindset. We cannot be in the mindset of accepting the status quo of the Golus. What does it mean in practical terms? In practical terms, there's people on this call that are a lot wiser than me, and Grace Mashpim, and Grace Chassidim, and big Fashteyers, and I don't measure myself against them, but I can just tell you the way I look at it. I think until Chav Zayin Nisan, Tavshin Nun Aleph, I think many of us could have had the imagination, Kvayochel, of being bystanders, whether it is paying passengers, of bystanders. The Rebbe is going to do this, and we are just going to hop along for the ride. And when the Rebbe is telling us Chav Zayin Nisan and that Sichem, when the Rebbe said when the Rebbe is telling each and every one of us, you are a company representative. You're not a visitor. You're not part of the audience. You're not even a paying passenger. You are a company representative. You are a mekusher to me, to the Rebbe, who together with us undertook the plan to bring Moshiach to the Derech Shvi'i, as the Rebbe told us on Yud Shvat, Tavshin Yud Aleph, and the Rebbe was reminding each and every one of us that our mindset has to change. We have to regard ourselves with anivus and humility and modesty, and we are all nothings, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, we are company representatives, and company representatives are held to higher standards. And whether everybody called Chada from Shira Delay, and everybody can check with their Mashpia and with their Rav and with their mentor, with their whatever you want, whether it is matters pertaining to Chitas, to Rambam, to Davening, to Tzedakah, to Chassidishkeit, to learning Chassidus, whatever it is, company representatives are held to higher standards. We are the Rebbe's company representatives. And the Rebbe gave us the privilege in that Sicha. When the Rebbe says, I turn it over to you. Don't expect to come on to this plan to bring Moshiach to this world in a passive fashion, that I'm going to get it done, and you're just going to come along for the ride. You are going to have to sit in the driver's seat together with me. We are the Rebbe's company representatives, and we have to achieve to change the mindset within each and every one of us. And by doing that, we will take a bizaycha to the Golus, Malkeinu Bereshenu, take it from Miyad. L'chaim v'livracha.